on Dub Zone, a wonder strike you'll watch over and over again. How a Matilda star broke her duck in a 5-goal thriller. Can anyone catch Melbourne City for the Premier's plate? Captain Rebekah Stott is our special guest here in the studio this evening. And Morgan Aquino to the rescue for the glory. Is their finals push under threat? Hello and welcome to Dub Zone. I'm Grace Gill. It's a pleasure to have your company tonight. Still no Neve Owens and no Pakua Frimpong, but I am in the host chair this evening, and it's wonderful to be joined by A-League's commentator Teo Pellizzeri. Teo, great to see you.
Great to see you, Grace.
And Teresa, Polias, Sydney FC legend of the game. Great to have you back, T.
It's great to be back, thank you.
And of course, we're so thrilled to have Rebekah Stott joining us tonight in studio, Melbourne City captain and also legend of the game for New Zealand. Nice to see you, Stotty.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, real pleasure. We'll talk about your game yesterday in just a minute, but first of all, I want to start off with the season. As we know, you've been around the season for a little while, around the league for a little while now. This is the first year we've had 22 games in a season. So in previous seasons gone by, it's done and dusted by this point in time, and we're moving to finals football. This year, not the case. We've still got 10 games to go. How are you feeling? How's the team feeling? How's your body holding up?
Yeah, we're feeling great at City. I mean, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that usually you are done and dusted now. But, yeah, it's good. Teams can really build on that consistency and try and come into form at the later end of the season, which I think is great for the league.
Plenty of time to still play, plenty of games to play. And City at the moment, Teo, in flying form, 7 points atop of the table. Tell me about their form. Tell me about their result yesterday. What a response.
A hard-fought win, a 2-1 result against the Wellington Phoenix, and Polias got the opening goal after really a possession-dominant start to the game in first half from Melbourne City. They had some reward to show for it, and then Amina Rekic gave them a 2-goal buffer before getting sent off, which we'll get to. But it was a great individual goal from Rekic to be able to get around 3 Wellington defenders and give them a safety net. This was actually somewhat against the run of play. Phoenix was starting to build, and they would get a goal back through Mariana Speckmeyer in order to, make it a nervous finish and a bit of a challenge by the end of the game. And Melbourne City, they banked 2 wins from 2 against the Wellington Phoenix, home and away over the course of the season.
Yeah, look, it was a very possession-dominant game for City. Some of the stats that came out of that game during it were outrageous, but 2 great goals and then more of a fight than probably they wanted in the end. But Wellington came out a lot better in that second half and put up a good fight.
It wasn't a game without drama too. Of course, we saw Amina Rekic, who was on the score sheet and then was sent off, Stotty, in the 86th minute. What did you make of the call or your perspective on that call?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously unfortunate for us. We never want to see a player get sent off. Yeah, maybe a little bit soft, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's the ref's call and she made that decision. But it was a good opportunity for us to work on playing with a man down, and we did well to get that result and play the game out.
And to the TPs beside me, Teo, T, what did you make of the red card, T?
Look, I thought it was more of a mild foul, not a card, than you know...
No card? None at all?
No,
Okay.
Not at all. I think maybe the referee sort of rushed that decision. Could have taken a moment to just think about what actually happened, and you could see Rekic, her eyes were solely on the ball, and it was Jaber that nipped in front and you know, got clipped.
It's a long season for the referees too, not just the players. And I do start to worry that talking about the referee is starting to creep into a lot more of the game-based chat. Social media and fans are starting to blow up about it almost every week, quite frequently across a number of games. It's worth remembering that we've gone from 4 games a week to 6 games a week. The Football Australia has remained committed to appointing female referees to A-League women's games, which is great to see. And it does mean they're reaching a little bit deeper into the NPLs. We've seen debutant referees this season. We've seen first-time fourth officials as well getting their first taste of exposure to A-League women's level. Look, I'm willing to back Isabella Libri here on a judgment call and say that, yeah, maybe it's a soft yellow card, but I can still see the merits of giving a yellow card.
Look, you raise a good point, but I think if you look at it constructively and respectfully, I think it's a good thing for all parties, players, coaches and referees. I think it betters everyone. So that's just my opinion in that case. Definitely not a yellow. Harsh.
Well, appreciate your opinion, nonetheless, T. Well, what it does mean is that Amina Rekic is unavailable for your game next weekend against Western United. How do you plug that gap without her?
Yeah, it's a huge loss for us. Amina is an amazing player and she's been scoring goals for us, which is important. But we have great depth in our squad, and I'm sure whoever comes into the starting lineup will do an amazing job. And yeah, it's a big game, but we'll rise to the challenge.
on the other side of things, what we saw from Wellington Phoenix was no Macy Fraser. She's been excellent in her A-League debut season. Tay, what did you make of that decision?
Wellington have been quite proactive with both giving personal leave and rests to players through the course of the season. Fraser was rested for this game. We saw Brianna Edwards return to the bench after she was given personal leave for Unite round. And even in previous seasons, we've seen Grace Wisniewski and Alyssa Wynnum be granted time away from the club. I'm not sure if Wellington are just a long way ahead of the curve on this with regards to player welfare, or whether the international travel is a factor here. But in a game of fine margins, they definitely missed both the midfield presence and also the attacking quality of a player like Macy Fraser.
Yeah, they definitely missed her in there. They could have used, her skill and want for the ball offensively. But, from a welfare perspective, it's great to see them, giving players time off when they need and backing whoever comes in. So while they were probably quite poor on the ball yesterday, from their own expectations, defensively they were very, very disciplined. And in that second half, things did turn around.
It did, and let's get a first-hand account from defending against the Wellington Phoenix, because even though Mariana Speckmeyer scored the goal, Isabel Cox was involved in the build-up. Only her third game since arriving at the club, and Stotty, you've got your 2 games against Wellington out of the way, so unless you play them in finals, you don't have to worry about this being used as bulletin board material. What was it like to defend against Isabel Cox, and what dimension will she bring to the Wellington attack as they try to turn this slump around?
Yeah, she's obviously very fast. She's tall, she's got that aerial presence, and I think, she's going to add so much value to the Phoenix going forward. So I think it's a great signing for them.
Well, another game we saw across the weekend was a 5-goal thriller in Canberra United Melbourne Victory. I tuned into this when it was 2-2 late in the game and I thought that was it. It was a draw. Next thing I knew, Melbourne Victory had taken the lead, and what a turnaround. Such an important result for them, Teo.
The swing on the ladder was huge as well. I mean, Victory was sitting as low as 8th live in play during the matches, and then all of a sudden their comeback wins vaulted them up. Canberra struck first a Victorian, Holly Murray, with a great assist for Michelle Heyman. No emotional letdown from goal number 100 for Heyman, just continuing on her merry way. Rachel Lowe, 7th of the season, very quietly putting together a really good, consistent campaign. And then Chids just with a bit of dog in the fight here to get to the ball and score to put Victory in front 2-1. To be honest, at this point, I thought that might be the tipping point, and emotionally Victory might have got the better of Canberra. But they fought back, and great credit to the youngster Sophia Christopherson here, twisting that assist back for Michelle Heyman to score a double. So at this point, with the crowd behind them, I thought Canberra were going to go on to win. And with these 2 chances here for Heyman and Rojas, they absolutely should have. They didn't take their chances at one end. Emily Gielnik does at the other. It was a great finish to a bit of an instant classic.
Look, a thriller, but I can't take anything away from Canberra because they are a really good attacking team. But from a Victory perspective, it was great, obviously, to see Gielnik come back in and score the winner for her team. But I think, it's about building that mental resilience now. I don't think things have gone exactly the way Jeff wanted to in terms of availabilities and injuries and stuff like that. So, hopefully for the Victory, this is a turning point in terms of the mentality, and that transfers into chemistry.
We've spoken a lot about the Victory across the season. We know they're a star-studded lineup. They've got the most number of Matildas in this team. And Stotty, I'll ask you about this one because you've been involved in city teams in the past, particularly where you've had these on-paper teams that should produce. And for Victory this year, they just falling short a little bit of expectation. How do you manage that balance of experience and international experience particularly?
Yeah, I think it's tough for Victory. They've had Gielnik's been out for quite a while. I think KK had a slow start getting back into the team and fighting injuries. And obviously Chids has just come back. I think it takes time, and having those players available will definitely help, and they'll build chemistry and consistency. So I think they just need that.
Well, talk about consistency. Michelle Heyman, after getting not only her 100th but her 101st goal last weekend in Unite round, goes on to score 2 in this game. So 103 goals in the season. She was honoured at the game, which was really, really lovely to see. But T, she's a player that you've played with and against. What can you say about Michelle
just
Heyman?
Stoked for her. The challenges Michelle's overcome throughout her career in this league, off the pitch. It's an incredible achievement, and I think one day, even if that is matched, I don't think it can be matched given she's gone through all those seasons from the beginning where it was short seasons and all those other challenges which we could talk days about. But no, just really happy she's been honoured, and she's an incredible human.
Great to see another fellow former Matilda, Caitlin Munoz there. Heyman's top of the Golden Boot.
Yeah,
I mean,
along with Vesna.
Yeah, so Canberra are sitting in second last on the table with the joint leaders in the Golden Boot. My apologies. The reason for this is they have +9 XG over the course of the season. T. They are more than double. They are more than double as efficient in front of goal as the next best team. They're an outrageous outlier, and yet they are not turning it into results. And as you touched on, the leakiness of their defence is perhaps the reason that they're not capitalising on what should be a once-in-a-decade season for their attackers.
Well, earlier this afternoon we saw a late winner at Leichhardt Stadium. We were having a few conversations off-air about concerning signs for Sydney FC. Perhaps we obviously saw Newcastle go up early in the game and Sydney play a late comeback and hold their position top of the ladder. They're now sitting in second. But what a response, and T, your former team.
Yeah, and I think if it went the other way, we'd be asking, what's going on, T? But really, if you weigh it all up, they've had catch-up games, they've had injuries, the squad stability it's changing every week. They've got one of the younger squads. And despite all that, they're sitting second. So really, I think they're actually holding their own and doing a good job this season.
Yeah, crisis averted. We spent most of this game discussing what's wrong with Sydney, and then a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old prop up in the second half to cancel out Serena Bolden's opener. Now, Maddie Casper's here, younger sister of Holly, who scored a goal for Wanderers last week, gets her first A-League women's goal, only her fourth appearance as well. And that was a really galvanising moment. You can see the rest of the teammates getting around and so excited for her. And it's a good header as well for a young player, so good signs for the future if that's how she reads the ball in the air. And then Zara Kruger, who's been a bit of a quiet achiever in their midfield, had been in and out of the starting 11, was subbed on with 10 minutes to go in this one. Great moment for her. She pops up and scores her first Liberty A-League goal in the 97th minute. It was the last kick of the game. And all I can say is Newcastle, 11 losses in a row against Sydney FC. Both of them late goals this season, both at home in Newcastle. Courtney Vine's late winner, and now Zara Kruger in Sydney. Heartbreak for the Jets ×2. And I feel for them. I really thought today might have been the day that they finally broke that 10-game losing streak against them.
Yeah, and it's tough because we saw obviously the time with Van Egmond at the charge, and now he's since left. Today, Ryan Campbell looking after the team, and perhaps he might stay in that position. Serena Bolden, though, would we say that she's one of the signings of the season to the panel? And T, I'll start with you.
Definitely. She's come in, scored, 7, 8 goals now?
Seven
goals. You can't deny that she's if not one of, the signings of the season. And that first goal, early goal, convincing header. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Sydney are a team that will have the best defensive record in the team. So for Bolden to get past that, she's such a dynamic player up front. And Stotty, you've played against her in the past. Dare I bring it up? But what do you make of her performances in the A-League?
Yeah, I mean, she's a forward and she's scoring goals. She's doing her job, and quite spectacular goals as well. So, I mean, it's great for the league and good for Newcastle. They're killing it.
Well, last night, Teo, you were on the call for this one. No goals involved.
Yeah, not so many goals.
Not so many goals, but not without its chances. Perth Glory 0, Brisbane Roar 0. Talk us through the game.
Look, both teams would walk away feeling as though they created the chances to win it, but Brisbane Roar really controlled this match. And Teresa, you and I, after going over the incidents, going over the ebb and flow of the game, Perth is still sitting second, but they got away with one here. Tamiki Yallop shoots over the bar. We'll see the Tash Rigby with a handball, gives away a penalty, which is not capitalised upon. And into the second half, Sian Fry shoots over there. Millie Farrow got round the keeper and, a heroic block on the line from Holly McQueen to keep the score at 0-0, and then later in the half, Jordan Silkowitz makes the save from Farrow in order to keep the game 0-0. We probably had the two best keepers in terms of performance in the league in this game, T. But Perth, they still hold on to... they were holding second. They're down to third now on goal difference behind Sydney FC. They've got a nice little buffer, but they've only scored 3 goals in their last 6 games. It's starting to dry up for them. What's going wrong?
Look, it's a bit of a head-scratcher, to be honest. It's a stark contrast to the start of the season where they were flying. But I guess when, a few players are out of form, perhaps Eparkis is trying out a few different combinations and strategies out there, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what is going on out there.
Yeah. Well, we saw at the start of the season, further to your point, Tay, the first 7 games, 15 goals, the last 6, 3. So really speaks to their difficulties goal scoring. We know Fonsongkham started really well, as did Grace Jarley. She's sort of dropped out of favour a little bit. And Stotty, what do you make of her season so far, Grace Jarley?
Yeah, I haven't seen too many of the Perth games with the late time difference. But no, she's a great player, very intelligent and technical. And I think her connection with Millie Farrer is really good up top there. So yeah, I don't know. I think more goals will definitely come for them.
Yeah. Well, at the other end of the field, Morgan Aquino, in my eyes, is having one of her best seasons yet. And Tay, I'll start with you on this one. But do you think she's putting her hand up this far in as goalkeeper of the year?
I think the performance is merited. I mean, goalkeepers can have outstanding results even if they, lose 3 or 4-0. If they're the difference between 3 and 10, a goalkeeper could still be the best player on the pitch. But in this instance, Aquino was crucial. I feel as though if Brisbane scored this, they get reward for their first half. They probably go on with the job in the second half because they kept creating and they kept holding dominant position in the pitch. Morgan Aquino has been around since she was a young teenager, so we think of her as a regular in the A-League Women's. She's 22. She still has...
She's a baby.
She's actually still a long way from even entering the prime of her career, which speaks volumes about what the old W League and the new A-League Women's is doing for the long-term development of players.
Well, I would have said she's peaking, but she's still so young. She's got so much time, but at the moment she seems to be the person who's keeping them in that second spot. So hopefully they can dig themselves out of this rut before it's too late and others catch up.
They will have walked away happy enough with the clean sheet, but definitely not happy with the volume of chances they gave up. Because Raw, it felt like wave after wave of attack for a lot of the game, and a bit of a minor miracle that it finished 0-0.
Well, I thought the game deserved a goal, but as we move our attention to Western United, Adelaide United, earlier this afternoon, it was Western United who got the full 3 points. Kiwa Hieda, the single goal that day, but there was a disallowed goal earlier in the game. Dylan Holmes directly from a corner, and Olympico almost. This one was scratched off, ruled offside, ruled to be a foul, rather. I can't see it, and if you guys can, I appreciate pointing to where the foul is.
Yeah, all I can say is perhaps there was an early nudge on the keeper and it was called late, but to me, yeah, it's an Olympico goal. The goal should have stood.
Yeah.
What do you think, Teo?
I can't see a second fouler on the grassy knoll. I mean, that's just a goal, straight up and down. And Adrian Stent a right to protest. Look, maybe there's something that the referee has seen from their perspective on the pitch. But Adelaide, I mean, they're the bottom team on the table. You need the rub of the green. You need the lucky breaks. We've seen them beat Wellington. We know that on their day they're capable, but it didn't go for them here, and they ended up being punished by Western United thereafter.
Stotty, goal or no goal for that one?
I mean, I don't see a foul, but what can you do?
And of course, it was Kiwa Hieda, the difference. And Teo, a player coming out of Victorian NPL, she stepped up into the A-League and is getting more and more involved, growing as the season goes on.
Yeah, she's a very clever, evasive player. I don't think like a Catherine Zimmerman, who was scoring 40 goals in the NPL in years gone by. Kiwa Hieda was at that same level of absolutely beating down the door to get a contract in the A-League Women's. But I think that just speaks to the culture of Western United and basically Cat Smith finding a way to inherit a team, inherit a group of players, and then implement them effectively. They're still getting results. And really, after losing to Sydney FC last week, they didn't play anywhere near as well today. They got the 3 points. They played much better against Sydney FC and got beaten.
Well, they should have got much more out of that game last week. But they've quietly gone about their business this season. They had a rough start and we were concerned for them at the start of the season, but they've continued to, in their Western United style, worked hard, never give up, and they've climbed their way back up.
Stotty, you've got them next week, and I know you weren't there last season, but City still hasn't beaten Western United yet. This is, the unfashionable underdog or self-styled underdog in the form of Western United taking on, the big international City football group in Melbourne City. I know that your team doesn't focus a great deal on the opposition, but you must relish the chance to play against a team from the same city as you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's a rivalry now. It's a derby. So we love to play those games and, yeah, we want to win.
Well, it's been a big week for the Central Coast Mariners. They've got a game tonight, but earlier in the week they had a really good result against Sydney, but dampened a little bit throughout the week. Taryn King we've heard just in the last 24 hours. She has been the latest, the 8th player of the season to fall to an ACL rupture. Devastating news. T, former teammate of yours. How does that impact the Mariners?
Yeah, look, devastating. You know, another one. There's so many questions that come to mind, but from the Mariners' perspective, it's their captain, and she gives them a lot of stability and is a big key as to why they're doing so well this season. So, yeah, huge loss for the Mariners.
And, Stotty, you've had players in your team also obviously go down to an ACL injury this year too. How does it impact the playing squad, and how do you make sure that they still stay involved in the team environment?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. You never want to see someone get injured, especially that one. It's a long time out of the game. So, yeah, we just try and keep them involved and, in a good place. But it's tough.
Yeah. Well, we saw a dramatic finish midweek. Taylor, you were there at Leichhardt Stadium, Central Coast Mariners. Where do we begin on this game? They ended up beating Sydney FC 2-1 in what can only be described as dramatic scenes. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so Casey Dumont was subbed off precautionary injury at halftime. She's actually starting in the game that's coming up tonight. Ash Irwin comes on after Sarah Langman gets booked twice in the space of 15 minutes. And yet, after conceding an equaliser, the Central Coast get a late penalty. Ergamal scores it after the rebound in the 99th minute, and then kick off in full time. And it was, because of the rain, everyone was packed into the grandstand at Leichhardt Oval. The noise was incredible. It was a great A-League women's experience. And then these scenes of celebration at full time, Ash Irwin being cheered off. You know, earlier in the season, there was a banner for Ash which said Nigel, because their nickname used to be Nigel No Fans. I can tell you right now, everyone on the Central Coast is a fan of Ash Irwin now. And also, Sean Mielenkamp, the CEO, Em Husband, the coach, they shared a big embrace post-game. The spirit on field and off and the alignment within this club suggests that the whole is so much greater than the sum of its parts, and anything is possible from here. And I'm a little bit ashamed that I picked them to finish last in pre-season, Grace. Well, I was wrong. I was dead wrong on that. There's no way that they've got 18 points heading into tonight's game. There's no way that 18 points will see you finish last on the table.
Well, they're currently sitting in 6th, and we have to commend the work that Emily Husband has done her first year as an A-League head coach, and bringing this team largely young, inexperienced players performing, and against really good teams. Sydney FC, they knocked them off midweek.
Amazing stuff. I'm a bit speechless about the Mariners, but I will say Husband's recruitment has been on point. And not only that, it's then getting your team to play to their strengths, and that's what they're doing so well. They make it really hard for teams. They work hard out there. They bully teams, and it works for them. And, yeah, they deserve to be where they are.
Well, that's the A-League Women's, but we need to make the most of Rebekah Stott being here, because in February you will be trying to qualify for the Olympics with New Zealand and personally go to your 3rd Olympic Games after going to both London and Rio. New Zealand is in the Oceania qualifying group with Tonga, Samoa and Vanuatu, and then you'd have to win a semi and a final. But that's on the horizon. With the World Cup now in the rearview mirror, how exciting is it to be so close to starting Olympic qualifying and going on that journey again?
Yeah, it's so exciting. These are the big tournaments that we want to qualify for. So it'll be a great tournament out in Samoa, and hopefully we can win it and get our ticket to Paris.
Your Olympic experiences in the past, tell us what that's been like. Because World Cups are one thing, and it's the pinnacle of football and a big sporting event, but what about sort of just the aura of the Olympics and having been there yourself? Yeah,
the Olympics is probably my favourite event. You're surrounded by all these world-class athletes from different sports. You get to go into the athletes' village, and it's just such a cool experience. So yeah, it's definitely my favourite.
Well, we wish you all the very best for those qualifications, Stotty. But it's time for our Liberty Ones to Watch, our next-gen tracker where we pick our best 5 under-21 players. We've done this a couple of times over the course of the season. And we've got our latest list, thanks to you guys, ranking players from 1 to 5, 5 points to first place. And this time round, for our next-gen tracker, it is none other than Daniela Galic leading the race. What a player. Stotty, I'll come to you on her as your teammate. What a wonderful young player is Galic.
She's incredible. You just watch her on the training pitch in games. You can just see from the way she passes the ball, she shoots. She's got something special. I don't think I've seen a talented young player in a long time like her. The way she uses her body, she's just so smart, so intelligent, and she just seems to come off with the ball. So, yeah, she's definitely one to watch for the future. And I think she really suits the City style of football, and she's thriving there.
Only 17, how's she handling... It's her second season, and she exploded onto the scene as a 16-year-old last season. So how has she handled being exposed to the national spotlight? And, of course, you know, the inevitable talk about Bolter last season. Not so much this season. I think everyone's pumped the brakes and sort of let her develop at her own pace. But how is she handling sort of being public property at such a young age?
Yeah, she's super chill, but she's also so confident. Like, she knows she's good, I think, but she's so humble. So I think she's got all the tools and skills to really make it.
Well, Dani Galich is obviously doing very well, T, but there's a couple of other players on this list that have caught your eye. Peter Trimmis has come in second on our list this time around. What have you made of her so far?
Big time. Peter Trimmis, you know, debut season for the Mariners. Whatever role she's been assigned to, whether it's coming off the bench or starting, she's always influential on the field. She's got great engines, and her decision-making in one-on-one situations or 2v1 situations and in and around that front third is exceptional for her age. Yeah. For a new team, or returning team, I should say. She's been a leader out there for such a young person. So really excited to see what's to come from Trimmis.
Well, one thing's for sure, we've got some seriously good young talent in our lead. And as we turn our attention to the overall stand-ins, it's still Vesna Milivojevic leading the charge, and she's obviously doing great things for Canberra United. Dani Galich not too close behind. Holly McNamara still holding her place there in the top 5. Very impressive. Kush LaRue and Peter Trimmis as well has snuck into that top 5. Wonderful to see as well. So we take a look at the ladder and where things are standing at this point in the season, Teo. Yeah,
so Melbourne City, we've mentioned they are 7 points clear. Sydney up to second as a result of that 97th minute winner today. Could be vital, of course, with the new finals format this season. Western United, the big winners of the weekend. Melbourne Victory with a swing into the top 6. But gee, it's close, because Western United on 20, all the way down to Wellington in 9th place on 16. Wellington play Canberra next Sunday. That is a must-win. Perth, they need a get-right game. They're away in Adelaide, so there is so much at stake here. And a couple of bad weeks, and you could be looking up at the top 6 from the outside. So you really, the league is in a fascinating point at the moment, and I'm so glad we get the full home and away to let it all evolve.
Oh, it's so exciting. And, well, what is also so exciting, one of my favourite segments of the show is Teo's top tip, and we're just going to revisit for a moment what your top tip from last week was, I believe.
Yeah, all right.
Let's take a look at it.
For the first time in almost 7 years, Canberra to beat the Victory. That is my top tip. Michelle Heyman, Cote Rojas, you were so close, so close. I wore green for you. Anyway, let's move on to this week's top tip. It's a little bit different, Grace. I predict that between this tip and when we reconvene for Dubzone next weekend, our guest on the panel for next week's show will have scored a goal in the Liberty A-League.
Well, that is a big tease to our next week's show, because, of course, next week we have Western Sydney Wanderers striker in great form, Sophie Harding.
Oh, do we?
We do.
Oh, how convenient.
What a surprise.
How convenient. That's good luck for me.
Rebekah Stott, thank you so much for your time tonight. Really
Thanks
great to have you here. Teresa, Polias, a pleasure as always.
Absolute pleasure, thank you.
Teo Pellizzeri, always a pleasure working alongside you.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you very much for your company tonight. Stick around, join us for the A-League. So much more cracking action to come.